Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collidercast, episode 82. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm John Cage.
I'm Andy Lewis.
And I'm Rory Summers.
Full house!
Full house!
Full house.
Woo!
The sick notes are back, Steve. What's happened?
Parents are back.
Parents!
Yeah.
Parents.
You got some news, have you, Mr. Cage?
I've got a tiny human. We made one. Took a while, but we made one. And he's here. A little bit earlier than planned, but in fine health. So right now, it's all really good. He's healthy, Mum's healthy. Mum and he are currently in hospital in the transitional care unit, which for a premature baby of only 34 weeks is quite impressive going. Because hopefully in the next couple of days, he should be making a break for freedom. He sent me some plans. I've got the getaway car ready.
You're not going to have to dig a tunnel, are you, using hospital cutlery?
He's going to dig his way through the wall and cover it with a poster of breastfeeding or something.
Nice.
So
yes.
Forget to use a stress token, do a flashback so you can plant the tools in the room.
Good point, yes. No, it's fantastic news to see that he's doing well and a huge weight off our minds. So I expect to be massively sleep deprived. This may be the last podcast I'm on for a while, but right now, with mum and baby in the hospital and me at a loose end.
You're
Podcast.
disturbingly sober, Mr. Cage. What's going on? I'd be smashed off my tits at this point.
Well, you've got to be prepared just in case something happens.
Yeah.
Good answer, yes.
Aren't you smashed off your tits all the time, Andy?
No. Not as much as I used to be.
Not as much as it used to be. I would have thought what with lockdown and not having to drive anywhere, it would be like, glass of wine with breakfast or
No.
whiskey in the coffee.
I'm still working, so I've still got to, be vaguely compos at 8 o'clock in the morning.
John doesn't look convinced.
You're not fooling anyone, Lewis.
It's true.
Are you not convinced that he's not working, or are you not convinced that he's sober?
A little from column A and a little from column B.
Bitch.
Oh dear. Today was my last day at work. I'm now officially on parental leave.
Ooh.
So 2 weeks of no sleep, lots of nappies. Yeah, and general paranoia that we're not doing things right. Bring it on.
You're talking about the software team there, yeah?
I mean, I'm not there to police it, so possibly.
Yeah. The fact that you were out, was it last week, and we suffered some incidents.
Keeps everyone guessing.
Yeah. That's one way of putting it.
So what has everyone been up to over the last... John's obviously been busy, so I take it John's visiting the hospital back and forth. What's everyone else been up to while we've all been isolated and locked down and wondering what the end of the drive looks like?
I've found a lovely walk in the village. That's the highlight, really. I know you were expecting more from the look on your face there, Steve.
No, I wasn't expecting more. I was hoping for more, but I wasn't actually expecting more, to be fair.
It's actually really lovely. It cuts through the river, goes through this private estate, and the owners of the estate have allowed residents of the village to go on to their land to just kind of have a little stroll and see something different. And it's very nice. Took the kids there, and the river comes up. There's a little bank, so it's almost like a little beach. So Logan was there collecting shells and all sorts because we've had glorious weather. So he was out there in his shorts and his sun hat, picking up shells and filling up a little bucket.
It's pretty good. Yeah, we've got something similar here in Bewdley because obviously we're literally a 5-minute walk from the river and a 5-minute walk from the wire forest.
The wife?
5 minutes from the wife. Well, that's social distancing, mate. 5 minutes from the wife. It's fine. That's all right.
Does your housemate know about her?
But yeah, so we've got 5-minute walk to the forest, 5-minute walk to the river. It's fantastic, and as you say, the weather's been belting. So I've even done some gardening,
Bum, bum, bum.
and not damaged my shoulder. So that was good.
Also, I've obviously since my last episode 77, I've moved house, but I've not had a chance to go to Dunelm Milne, and now I won't be able to until lockdown's over. So regular listeners will have to wait at least a couple of months.
We made a promise as well. We made a promise at Aircon that we'd have a Dunelm Mill episode when we were back on.
Do they not deliver?
No,
Probably.
You need to go there for the full experience, John.
It's
You
just
know,
not
your
the same,
soul
yeah.
doesn't just get sucked out of you the same way as visiting Dunhill Mill.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You walk around and
Well, see,
Yes.
I'll be going there with the kids. So it'd be like, get down off the sofa. No, don't climb on the chair. No, come back.
Don't smash those mirrors.
Oh, shit.
Was that you?
Logan, that's a shelf, not a climbing. Oh.
yeah. Fun times.
Got all this to look forward to, haven't I?
You really do.
Yep.
What have you been doing, Steve?
Not a lot, I must admit. I don't understand these people who seem to be all over the internet going, all this free time to watch all this stuff on Netflix, because I bizarrely seem to have less time, mainly because my routine has just completely gone out the window. So my routine used to be get up at stupid o'clock, get a train to Birmingham, and so on the train to Birmingham I would sort out emails for Polyhedron Collider, and any comments we've had on the website, read through RPG books while listening to podcasts. Then go work, as usual. Then on the way back, I'd read a book on my Kindle, and then listen to some podcasts on the train, on the drive home. So in this last 6 weeks, I've not listened to a single bloody podcast. I've read about 3 pages of my book, and I haven't read any RPG stuff.
What have you been doing with your time?
I don't know. Sleeping, I think. I seem to be going to bed at the same time, but waking up 2 hours later than what I normally do. And I'm walking through the day going, this is what it feels like to have the right amount of sleep. This is very weird.
I can see
haven't had
colour.
a headache. I'm not grumpy. What's going on?
I don't have a perpetual headache. What's going on?
I've noticed with all the conference calls I've had with work that only people that don't have kids have been saying very similar things to that. Like, this is what it's like to not be tired. So you fucker.
Yeah, it's great. I get an extra 3 hours a day to do things because I'm not commuting, which is brilliant.
Well, so I should get an extra 3 hours a day, but I think I seem to be spending 2 hours of that sleeping.
Yes.
And then breakfast is now a leisurely affair. Breakfast used to be something wolfed down either before I caught the train or on the train. Now it's like, sit down, brew a nice cup of coffee,
Read
watch
the newspaper.
breakfast.
Very gentlemanly.
Yeah. Then look at the clock and go, shit, I need to do some work.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm aiming to start work at 8 o'clock these days rather than the sort of the regulation 9. So I'm kind of getting up at 7:30. Struggling with the commute downstairs, scarf down a cup of coffee, open the laptop and crack on. But, you can kind of have breakfast as you're going through your daily emails. It's brilliant. But then I can finish at 4 and enjoy the sunny evenings. It's wonderful.
It's the way to do it if you can.
It really is.
I've been seeing a lot of the inside of the hospital in the last couple of weeks. But that does mean that I have had quite a bit of time where I've just been cuddling a tiny human. And honestly, they don't do that much at this point. So
They really don't.
You're mostly just kind of being there for them. So once you're sat down with Sam on your shoulder and you've got your headphones on so you can listen to the Glass Cannon podcast, I just broke episode 200 today.
Wow.
Bloody hell.
Let's just say they've got me through some dark times. And that does mean that I've also been starting to read some more D&D stuff. So I've got a great picture of me reading The Tomb of Annihilation to Sammy. Start 'em young.
Scare the shit out of him with a lich.
No one's got loads of solo gaming in like the rest of the internet seems to think we have. And
I played a bit of Nemesis now and again. Passes an hour and a half in the evening. Solo, actually, Nemesis is pretty good because it does have its own solo mode. So instead of getting the 2, if you're not familiar with Nemesis, you get dealt 2 missions, one for the core, the company, and one for your own person. And when the first Gribbly turns up, you have to pick one of them and try to achieve it at the detriment or benefit of the other players as you see fit. But in the solo mode, you get the same sort of mechanic. You got to pick one of them, but it's usually something like, the ship must reach Earth, or you must find the nest and grab an egg or something like that. Something slightly simpler than, murder everybody else and get out alive. And it's kind of easy to start with, and it sort of lulls you into a false sense of security because you're running around the ship because you're making a lot less noise than 5 people would. But it gets to the point where you've seen most of the rooms, but every single corridor has noise in it. So it doesn't matter what you do, you're on the next move.
Sounds about right for that game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I've won it once with a solo, and I played it again with, and I've been going through the different characters to try and understand all this or what they different do and stuff, just to explore the game a bit. And I managed to do the entire mission of the last time I played it with the Scout, I think it was. Basically, most of the ship was on fire. Half the ship didn't work, but I got the engines going and I pointed the destination to Earth. I literally got back to the hibernatorium where you go back to sleep, and I set off an alarm. A Gribbly turned up and killed me.
And then presumably you got pasted against the back wall of the deck as the ship went into hyperdrive.
That's it, exactly. Oh, God. And I had somebody, 2 turns left, so it was the Gribbly and everybody else, my brains included, just... I was disappointed with that because I genuinely thought I'd do it. No. Oh, well, never mind. But it is a great game. Been doing lots of app playing as well. I think we talked to some of them last time. But been doing a couple more. I really should get this War of Mine out again because that's a really good game solo, board game. I mean, it's good on the video on the computer as well. But it's bloody miserable, and I don't feel that depressed at the moment. So,
wait until the sun goes in.
Yes, that's a good time when it starts raining. You know, when we get to summer and it starts pissing down.
Yeah, to cheer you up.
Yeah.
The only game I've managed to play since we last spoke was that digital game of Scythe that we tried to play, which I was frankly a miserable shit for the majority of. I was quite angry. I don't think I'd slept well. I was a bit stressed about a lot of other stuff that was going on at the time. And I just thought, I'll try this online game. I didn't really feel in the mood for it, but I thought normally if I start playing a game, I'll snap out of it. And I just got increasingly frustrated with A, not remembering how to play Scythe, and B, struggling with what the interface meant.
The interface is excellent. It's if you know what
the board game.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you don't know what you're doing, then it's probably a bit confusing. Where does this go? What does this do? Oh.
The thing is, as well, I remember the exact point when you completely lost patience. There was a definite point where it's like, I'm putting a brave face on this, I'm putting a brave... Oh, kits.
I cannot be asked this. How do I get out of this game? No, I have to keep going so that you guys can finish. Fine, I'll sabotage everyone.
And see, the frustration I have is I hadn't quite finished moving in when this lockdown fully happened. All my games, bar 5, are still at my parents' house.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Bugger.
Yeah.
Sucks,
I've managed to swing round. I'll be like, right, Mom, Dad, can you just get this game out and leave it in the front garden and I'll swing by and pick it up? Oh, also, do you need anything from the shops? So I've managed
question.
But I've had to kind of try and remember where the game is stored and go, right, send them pictures of what the box looks like. It's this one. I think it's in this box, top one on the left. But yeah. So I'm down to, I've got Terra Mystica, Root, Legends Untold.
Ooh.
That's not a bad selection.
And one other. No, so I've got some good, but the problem is only Legends Untold is a solo play game. Gloom of Kilforth, that was the other one, because I know I quite like the solo play of Gloom of Kilforth.
That's got a solo in him. I could admit, actually, I've got Legends Untold, and that's currently still in Shrink, so...
That's the one we play tested, near the start of our
2017, that was.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was near the start of this, and that's the one with the cards that you put out, and you've got to choose which way you want to go, isn't it?
It's an RPG in a box.
That's it,
was the tagline, and... yeah, I really like the sound of it, so I backed it. Haven't had a chance to play it yet, but flicking through the rule book, it's quite in depth. So I've got a nice new table in my house, and hopefully get the kids to bed and just kind of crack it out and take my time trying to work my way through it.
It is a game which is trying to get the depth of a full RPG in like this little tiny box. So yeah, the rules are quite dense.
I wasn't that keen on it, but.
Yeah, the problem is you played a very early version. It has changed since then, but the problem is I don't know how much has changed. This will be the 3rd version of it.
Oh, really?
If I play this. Yeah, because I played the original at Expo, where we found the MacGuffin in the front doorstep. We didn't have to go into the dungeon. We basically completed the dungeon on the first turn.
That's it, yes.
Then there was we had a demo copy prototype when it was on Kickstarter. We played that quite a bit. And I remember there was a little things... There was a balance between they were trying to make it simple so that it could, like, basically was a deck of cards and a dice. but there were things in there you kind of thought that would be really nice if that was a board with a token you could move along, like battle position and things like that. But so I've had it. I kickstarted it as well and got the two dungeon
sets,
tiles, and I just haven't got around to playing it. What I did get around to playing, basically, this game arrived just before lockdown started. Was a review copy of a game called Hero Path.
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking like a hero quest, dungeon crawler, cool minis.
Yeah, think talisman-y, hero questy.
Cool.
You're on an epic quest to kill the evil dragon.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
It's got all kinds of stuff in it. You can go visit blacksmiths and arcane knowledgists and gypsies to do all sorts.
Okay, so like an RPG style stuff in a box, just killing stuff in the dungeon.
Move to a place, kill some monsters, get to level up.
Fine, sign me up, Steve.
Yeah, don't bother.
Right.
So I played it solo. Now I've got to admit, I don't have passed full judgment on this until I've played it with some other people, because the solo game is slightly different. But it's a set board. So the board is the same every single time, and it's a bit like Talisman. I swear they've taken ideas from Talisman, because there's a river that you have to cross, and there's like a bridge and a raft, and you can move the raft along. That's one pretty cool thing. The raft can actually move along the board. You can cross the river at different points. And there's a dragon on a fiery mountain, and what you've got to do is you've got to get to him and you've got to kill him. But the problem is the dragon levels up as you level up.
Oh,
interesting.
So in the solo game, basically what you want to do is sprint for the dragon as soon as possible, ignore getting extra equipment and ignore getting extra stats, because you might as well just go for him straight away. It was a bit lackluster, should we say. You get a game and you open it and you get, this is a brand new game. I think this was on Kickstarter, I think a year or two ago. And you think, okay, year to go, modern game, maybe it's a modern interpretation. You start reading it, you think, I don't think the designers of this game have actually played any modern games.
Oh, really?
I think the last game they played was Hero Quest and Talisman.
Oh, wow. Is it really basic?
It's not really basic. It just feels clunky in a few things.
Is it like, God, what was that dungeon crawler we played a little while ago that we just ended up deciding it was a puzzle? And it had that rondelle where you could select actions on a wheel.
Oh, Perdition's Mouth.
That's the chap. Is it like that? Better? Worse?
No. Actually, Perdition's Mouth was a lot better. I know we weren't big fans of Perdition's Mouth, but at least with that, you could see how someone had tried to, modern. You could see the design ethos. This felt like someone was making a board game, but hadn't taken any influence from anything for the last 10, 15 years, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It feels old, and it's really quite bizarre because it's like rated like 8 or 9 on Board Game Geek, and I'm kind of wondering who's done the reviews at this point. I'm thinking, surely this can't be that popular, but it'll be held for now. Hopefully, we'll do a proper review or a bit more in-depth review later on. Hope I can get Andy or Rory over to play it at some point so we can play a multiplayer game. But it's going to be a while before that happens.
Is it the type of game that we could play over Skype or Zoom or Discord or something? Is there any hidden information? I mean,
there's no hidden information, so it could do that.
You could do it. You
there's
just
a lot
have
of
to
information.
manhandle all the components.
Yeah, so it's possible.
Doesn't sound like you looking forward to that task, though, Steve.
Well, let me just say the player boards are about the size of a conventional keyboard.
Oh,
whoa!
Okay, that's not too bad necessarily.
That's hefty.
Yeah, but as I said, there doesn't seem to be much in the way of interesting things in there, like weapons, for instance. Weapons just give you +1.
Oh.
It's like,
cool.
Okay, so why do I want the sword rather than the axe? Oh, I don't, because there's no difference. Right, okay then.
But even then...
Artwork, Stephen, the artwork.
Surely there must be a difference, I mean, if you think about it, between trying to punch someone in the face and trying to hit them with a whacking great piece of sharp metal.
It's a very simple rule set, so there's a weird way you get drafted cards at the beginning as well.
Right.
And I realised that one I didn't have to go buy any equipment because I had armour, a weapon, and a shield right from the start. And I was like, oh, I don't actually need to get anything because all the rest of the weapons available are exactly the same as the weapon I've already got. Right, to the dragon.
Got you. Nice.
It is a review copy, so hopefully we will revisit that in the near future.
Okay.
But it did feel like I had wasted a Saturday learning how to play that and setting it up.
That is unfortunate when you feel like you could have been playing other games that you might enjoy more, and you spent all that time finding something that's not quite your taste, something that's a bit too mediocre, a bit too easy.
Yeah.
So what's Super Dungeon Explore?
So yeah, so the following Sunday, I decided I'd start going through my shelf and taking down some games which are, my shelf of shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that Super Dungeon Explorer, which has been on my shelf, Super Dungeon Explorer Forgotten King has been on my shelf for bloody ages. And I thought, that's got a solo mode, let's try that. It's got a quick start rule in it, which is quite nice, which means you can play a game and learn the rules extremely quickly, which was nice.
Good, like that. Big tick.
Nice.
However, there are then two modes, classic mode and arcade mode. So classic mode is your us versus one versus many. So players take on heroes, one person takes on the villains.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to play that. I wanted to play arcade mode, which was the solo mode. And it says straight away, we don't recommend you try arcade mode until you've played a few games of classic mode. Right, no, I'm going to do this. And it took me about half an hour to set the bloody game up. And when you play a game and you're like, what's this card for, kind of thing? Am I supposed to have this card? It didn't seem to be explaining everything in the rule book.
Mm.
So, I had two cards that were exactly the same, and I'm like, why have I got two cards exactly the same? Is that correct? Am I supposed to have two cards? There's no reason in the world why you'd need two cards exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, I'm missing a card, aren't I? I've been printed the wrong one. This has been in shrink wrap for 2 years, so I'm never going to get that card ever again. One of the weird things about this is it's obviously a game that went through Kickstarter, and so you get a set of baddies with it, which, when you play in the arcade mode, come in groups, and it's basically 2 groups. And it doesn't really make it clear. So it says, when you set up your, solo cooperative game, choose 2 groups of baddies. Well, I've only got 2 groups of baddies. Choose one of your bosses. I've only got one boss. So basically, it's a game in which it was designed to sell all the expansions on Kickstarter because they would be all the extra bosses and all the extra baddies. So basically, apart from the map, it's going to be the same game most times. But I don't know if you... Right. I know a lot of people say... I did actually see a weird thing on Twitter this week about someone criticising board game media because board game media sticks their nose up at solo games.
Mm.
I was 3 turns into this game and I couldn't be bothered anymore.
Wow.
I was fed up. Because I was fed up of rolling dice for both sides. I was fed up of drawing cards and going, right, what does that AI mean he does? Oh, he moves there, he moves there. Right, I move there, I move there.
See,
Okay.
I think that's the distinction. I mean, there's some games that have really good solo modes or are solo games. I'm thinking Super Hot. Super Hot is a fantastic solo game.
Yes, I'd agree with that. Actually, I played that.
I couldn't play it, game after game after game because I'm shit at it. But I can play that game and I can sit down and I have to really think about every move I do, and there's consequences to the actions and there's risk mitigation. And that's a really tight solo game. There are other games that are multiplayer games that the solo mode is you just end up going, turn the card upside down, or it's got a green circle on it. And a green circle means that the board does this thing instead. And they're a bit lackluster, a bit shite.
Incidentally, Super Hot is amazing on Oculus and VR.
I've bought it on VR. I've still not got around to playing it.
It's
Maybe
really good.
tomorrow.
Do it.
I was going to say today or tomorrow is your last chance, Mr. Cage. Get on it.
Seriously, do it. It's so good. But make sure you've got a lot of space around you.
Lots of cushions.
Yes, I've put
No
nearly
cats.
put my fist through my keyboard before.
Yeah.
Have you ever kicked one of the cats when you've got your VR
Almost.
headset on?
Apparently, almost. I've nearly kicked Kipling because he was basically curious as to what I was doing, and of course, I was flailing around, shooting things and ducking and moving about, and I almost booted him in the face. And Laura had to shout at me. But the problem is, I could barely hear her because with the Oculus and the headset, you get headphones as well, so you just can't hear what's going on around you. You're totally immersed. It's brilliant entertainment, but you really can't tell what's going on around you.
I think if I had to go on one of those, I'd just vomit almost immediately. I get really bad vertigo. I got vertigo from playing Batman Arkham Asylum once. and had to lie down on the floor for 5 minutes. Yeah, I get it. I remember just playing it, and I was fighting the Joker at the end, and I had this really bad wave of vertigo to the point where I had to pause the game and just like starfish on the floor to just remind myself that I wasn't actually falling or moving anywhere.
Do you have to move yourself in a figure of 8 to reset your magnetic settings?
He's not a pigeon. Mr. Hop had a similar reaction to trying VR at my house. They just got really freaked out and just basically almost collapsed, like not feeling right at all. Not good. I once got the shit scared out of me because I was sat down and there's like a thing where you're basically you're being driven around and you're like shooting guns at the other mob members, that sort of thing. And that was good fun until the cat jumped on my lap, scared the shit out of me. I'm like, because nothing connected in my brain. Like, you're there like shooting things with the controllers going all over the place, and suddenly something's on you. You're like, I'm being attacked by something. What the hell is that?
I had something similar years ago. The first house I rented in Malvern was actually like a barn extension on the end of someone's house, and it was a room above the garage. And I remember it being a summer's day, and they had like a husky dog. It was really playful and really friendly. And it was a hot day, so I'd left the kitchen door open, so that was my door into that house. And I was upstairs, and the dog had never once come into my house. And I remember I was playing Deus Ex. So I had my back to the door, so I couldn't have seen anyone coming in. I had headphones on, and the dog jumped on my lap. And it's like a full-size husky.
Jesus.
Like,
Nice.
I don't know who was more scared at that point than me or the dog, because the dog looked at me like with eyes wide in terror and fled at my house.
And never came back.
Yep.
Oh no, bless her, she was a bit dumb. She'd forgotten about that 15 minutes later.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
She used to chase wasps and then get stung. And you think, oh, that'll teach you. No. Still chasing wasps.
It's good to have a hobby.
Yeah.
Kipling does things like that. A few years ago, apparently, he basically managed to catch a bee and basically killed it with his paw. But the bee stung him, so his paw inflated to something the size of my hand instead. Of course, he still chases bees. Stupid animal. He was chasing a wasp the other day.
It's never going to end well.
I mean, it's a little unconventional, but should we do some news?
Oh.
There's news?
I'd almost forgotten about the news.
It's a bit thin, but we've got some.
Have you?
You should do that then.
My finger has come completely off the news pulse. So amaze me, Steve. What is there?
I wouldn't worry too much, Roy. Usually we've got like 10 items and we pare them down to 2 or 3 we're interested in. Today we've got 3.
Cool.
So it's not
brace yourselves.
Not a major thing, yeah. So John's found the ferret.
That's going to terrify your son. I guarantee it.
Terrifies the cat.
So what the main one is technically, and this is technically still true, the UK Games Expo has been postponed till August. So it was supposed to be end of May, last weekend of May, which is usually the bank holiday weekend or close to the bank holiday weekend.
I've actually got my countdown on my phone. It was meant to be in 37 days.
Oh.
Well, I can tell you it's now supposed to be in 120-something days because I'm saying this now and the podcast won't go out on the same day I'm saying this. It's going to be on the Friday, the 21st of August to Sunday, the 23rd of August. He says...
Say what you will about coronavirus, but this does mean that I'd now stand a chance of going to the UK Games Expo.
Excellent.
As do I, because I'm no longer on holiday.
There you go.
Now... we still have a slot to do a live podcast on the Friday afternoon. So I am being told because we have a slot, we've got the inside information that said they have no intentions of postponing yet.
Excellent.
However, I mean, we've had news this week that like Oktoberfest is cancelled. That's a bigger event than Expo, so I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing that Gen Con, Expo, Essen are all going to be cancelled. So we don't know. I mean, as I said, we've been told that things are going ahead at the moment, but we'll wait and see. I mean, even 120 days away seems awfully close at the moment based on what else is going on in the world. So I think it's just going to wait patiently and see what's going to happen, really. What we do have, though, is because of lockdown and people staying in, various companies, various publishers have been doing freebies, discounts, and all kinds of things on games you can play at home.
Yes, indeed.
Digitally.
One of the big ones, which I have taken advantage of, is Wizards of the Coast have been giving away loads of free content for Dungeons & Dragons.
Sorry, guys, I'm going to have to stop the podcast. I've got something pressing to do right now, which is go on the Wizard of the Coast website. Steve's face just dropped then, so don't you dare leave the podcast.
I thought you were about to say you hadn't been recording.
That's awesome.
Most of them are they're giving out Adventures League adventures.
Ooh.
It's usually about one a day. They're giving out colouring books. That's something that floats your boat. But what is really interesting is they've actually been giving out adventures for Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, and D&D Beyond.
Yes.
Ooh.
So they've been giving full adventures, which include all the artwork, all the stats. So like the Roll20 version, for instance, includes all the maps, all the tokens, all the stats of the creatures, all the handouts.
They're
How
really
are you only
good.
just mentioning this to us now, Steve?
Well, one of them only came out today.
Okay.
So they've been going out all week, and you can go back and get the stuff from previous weeks. They're giving out one new thing every day.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay.
I managed to bag Forge of Fury today, actually, the day of the podcast, Wednesday, 22nd. That is classed as an add-on rather than a full module in itself, but that basically means you start your own adventure and then just click an add-on and it will give you all the content for that particular module. So it works essentially the same way. You just need to do a little bit more work around it. But it's really, really good. As Steve says, the maps and the tokens and stuff all pre-generated. Saves you a ton of work. Looks really good. I'm also learning quite a lot of the additional functionality of Roll20 because of this.
Nice.
So do I have to go to Wizards of the Coast website to get this for Roll20?
If you go to the Wizards of the Coast website, it will give you the links to the right content.
Lovely.
Yes.
And then I go to my Roll20 and then...
Yes, I know. I would recommend clicking on the link for both Roll20 and D&D Beyond.
Okay.
Yes.
Why?
Because if you've got a D&D Beyond account, it'll just add it to your account.
Perfect. Okay.
But they aren't linked, though, apparently. There's no support between Roll20 and D&D Beyond, so if you buy it in one...
Oh,
you
no,
can't-
there
you
isn't.
can't drop
No,
it
It'll
in the
just
other.
give me it
Yeah.
in both
Yeah.
places. Yeah.
It just give you it in both
Okay.
places, is all
Okay.
I'm saying. I mean, and if you're feeling particularly fruity, you can grab it for Fantasy Grounds as well, but none of us use that at the
Is
moment.
Fantasy
so-
Grounds an alternative to Roll20? Is it?
It is.
Yes.
It looks much more polished. I did look at it a little bit.
Yes, what I have heard is it is more polished, but you pay more for it because of it.
Okay. I don't like paying for stuff.
I'd be okay for paying for it if it meant that when you scroll in and out, the actual scroll in and out bit works.
Okay, yeah, I'd pay for that.
It's funny, like the little things, but it's just such an intense hatred for that
After
particular
2.5
part of
years
using
of it,
Roll20. It drives me mad.
It's weird because I'm pretty much well invested with Roll20 now, but I've got to decide. I'm paying for Plus at the moment rather than Pro, and we're looking at possibly doing some other RPGs. But to make custom character sheets, which actually sound like a bit of a doddle if you know a little bit about HTML, you've got to be a Pro member. Just to copy and paste a bit of HTML into a form. You have to be a
God,
Pro
really?
member. It's like, oh, for crying out loud. And last of all on the news, we have mentioned them a few times before, and I thought this one was a bit of interesting. Aconite Books, who are the publishers for Asmodee, who are doing novels for all the Asmodee licenses, which at the moment are almost predominantly Fantasy Flight ones, have announced that they are releasing a Twilight Imperium novel.
Boom, boom, boom. That does sound
Is it
quite
4
interesting.
hours long?
I would hope it's
minimum?
longer.
Twilight Imperium's an 8-hour game, mate. 4 hours is like Agra levels.
No, but I'd be quite disappointed if the book was only 4 hours long.
Speaking of which, I want to play Twilight Imperium. You'd think this is an ideal time for it, but no, because you can't meet up.
What, to get 6 people to your house? Yeah.
Well, it's all right. You lot can come over here because I'm immune. I don't care. I've already had it.
Well, there's no guarantee at this point.
No, it's
No,
true,
we
it's
don't
true.
know.
Well, I'm probably
less
less
than a point.
likely. Let's put it that way.
I don't like those odds.
Yeah, I'm not going to roll that particular dice, I think. Thanks,
The
Andy.
die of death.
So I thought I would mention these because I've actually been sent copies of the first 2 books that Aconite did on Kindle.
Oh,
I said, unfortunately, I'm not reading them as fast enough because I'm not getting the commute on the train.
What have they done so far then, Steve?
So they've done an Arkham Horror book, which is... sorry, let me just double check the names. Actually, they've got a few coming out. So they've released A Wrath of Nkai, which is an Arkham Horror novel. Mm-hmm. They've released Tales from the Crucible, which is a... what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a set of short stories. So rather than it being one novel, it's a set of short stories all based in the Keyforge setting.
Okay.
So I'm expecting that to be quite bonkers. Those 2 are out at the moment. They're going to be doing a Legend of the Five Rings, a couple of Legends of the Five Rings books, and another Arkham Horror book all set to come out, and then a Twilight Imperium book.
So when they announced it, I know they said Pandemic was on the list, and I'm really keen. Now, I was always really excited about this book anyway, but given the current climate, I'm especially interested to see what a Pandemic book is like.
I wonder whether they've kind of kept quiet about that one for a little bit.
Quite likely.
Question I have, Steve. I know you said you haven't. Have you started reading the Arkham Horror one yet?
Yes, I'm about halfway through.
Is it written in the style of H.P. Lovecraft?
No. That's good.
I'm trying to read the Lovecraft book at the moment. Well, say the book, the tome that's this thick of all the stories.
I've got it on hard. Kindle. I'm about 7% of the way through.
It's hard going.
Mammoth text. It is.
So to give you a brief overview, it's the main character is an Italian jewel thief who has been tasked with stealing an artifact of horror. It's a mummy. And so it's very much written in the kind of 1920s pulp detective kind of style.
Nice.
Which I actually think suits Arkham Horror better than like Lovecraft's writing. That makes sense. Because let's be fair, Arkham Horror is the pulpy, cartoony version of Lovecraft.
Yeah.
And it's the writing style actually does suit it rather well. And the thing is about this whole genre of books based on secondary works, as it were. They're generally not very good. Let's be honest. But this is not awful. It's not bad. I'm actually quite enjoying it. I mean, it's never. I mean, let's be fair. The rest of the books I've been reading this year, what I do is when I choose a book to read, I typically tend to choose the books which I know are going to be good. I know I can't read everything, so I pick. Like for instance, I'll pick a Brandon Sanderson book because I know they're going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And this is never going to be up to that kind of level of book. But if you're for instance, into D&D and you've read some of the Drizzt books, I think it's actually a little bit better than some of them.
Okay.
What's it called again, Steve?
It's called Wrath of Nkai. N-K-A.
As I'm just looking at it right now, it says it's not available until the 1st of September.
Oh, maybe I've got a preview version of it then, because it's...
Well, we are Hot Shots Media board game people, so it makes sense that...
And there's another one coming out, according to Acolyte's website, called The Last Ritual, which is another Arkham Horror one by S.A. Sidor. And that's not out until November 2020, so I shall keep my eyes on those.
So on the whole idea of kind of literature based on a game or a kind of secondary works, have you any of you guys read any of the Games Workshop Black Library stuff?
I've read the first 6, or is it 8 books of Horus Heresy? Okay,
and where would they rank? Would you say they're kind of on par with what you've got now?
I would say, yeah, okay, it's on a similar standing to... The good stuff is on a similar ranking to what this Arkham Horror book is, that kind of level. But yeah, I mean, the Horus Heresy books can go jump up and down.
Yeah, there's quite an array of authors on there.
Yeah. Quite... As an aside, where one of me and John's mutual friends used to work in Nottingham in Games Workshop when he was in university. We were discussing about the Horus Heresy books with him, and he was looking at me and going, "Why is he writing novels?" I said, "Why, is he not a novel writer?" "No, man, the telephone's on customer support." He did. It seems that some of the Black Library novelists are not professional writers, shall we say. So, unfortunately, with those 3 minor news items, is about all we've got at the moment.
We've dragged the shit out of those 3 items.
I mean, we could talk about Kickstarters at the moment, but it's basically just Ank.
And Frosthaven.
Oh, Ankh, Frosthaven. Oh, Big Davy T's Defense of Procyon 3 has just launched as well.
Ah, yes. That promises to be quite good. That's what he says, anyway.
I'm taking a bit of a break from Kickstarter at the moment. I've already spent a bit too much on Kickstarter this year.
Yes.
Oops.
That's fair enough.
I actually backed and then unbacked a couple of games. I saw basically an advert on Instagram of all places for sort of small little games like that. One's called
I saw you back that.
Yeah, GPS Planet and Sheep or something it's called.
What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, I then had a
Not knocking the project.
had a change of heart.
Not knocking the games at all, but it didn't look like your cup of tea at all, Andy.
No, it's the small sort of lighter game side of things I was more interested in because I don't actually have that many of them in my collection, as you probably know.
That's because you hate them.
Did you just say you were interested in the smaller, lighter games?
Well,
Did I just hear that right?
in the sense that I don't have many of them. I mean, there must be some out there that aren't shit, you know.
Oh dear.
In fact, I have a few of them, but they just kind of looked. I looked at them and thought, oh, they look quite whimsical, so I'll have a look at them. But then I decided, actually, no, don't be ridiculous.
Has that virus done something weird to you, Andy?
Probably, probably.
Have you been changed? Have you been mutated in some way?
No. Well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I've got wings now. Does that count?
So yeah, we have actually managed to play some games.
We have.
You have.
Well, me and Steve
The
have.
collective we.
So via the medium of both Tabletopia and
Dance.
Tabletop Simulator, we've managed to play a few games over the last couple of weeks. We played Teotihuacan. We've played a bit of role play. Played a bit of Great Western Trail. We've been dabbling in a little bit of odds and sods. Really impressed by some of them. So we've played a bit of a mixture of Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia.
Which one's better?
Tabletopia.
Tabletopia just is... But, right. Tabletopia is a little bit slicker because it's been professionally developed and all the games have been licensed.
Okay.
So one of the things with Tabletopia is you can guarantee that all the... understanding is you can guarantee that all the designers and developers have not only given permission but have been reimbursed for their games being on that platform.
And have probably contributed actual artwork.
Yeah. Tabletop Simulator is all via the Steam Workshop. So whereas there are genuine games on there where the developers and publishers have, either commissioned or developed the games for there, a lot of the games are bedroom people kind of like coding it themselves. Mm-hmm. And what you might find is a lot of games come down because I have a funny feeling I think most of the Asmodee games on there come down straight away because Asmodee shut them down and go, this is infringing copyright.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
However, the way they both work is very, very, very similar. To the point where the controls are almost exactly the same. Both of them are actually just physics engines.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a fake table, you've got fake pieces, and you're moving them back and forth. And then the games have some elements of programming that can go into them. And I think actually Tabletop Simulator wins a little bit there because I get the impression, based on some of the games we've played, there's more scope for you to program things in.
Okay.
Like we were just playing around with it the other day, trying to exploring, and there's a version of Spirit Island on Tabletop Simulator, which the setup is one of the best macros I've ever seen. It just does everything for you. And it's not a case of it's you load the game and it's set up. It's actually a macro which is changing it based on your choices and number of players and things like that.
Nice.
That's cool. Whereas otherwise you'd have to lay it out sort of virtually, physically yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most of them, what they'll do is they'll set up the game based on the number of players. So put if there's 4 board pieces or whatever, we'll do that. But with a lot of them, you'll have to do some of the setup yourself.
Right.
Whereas I said, the Tabletop Simulator, some of the Tabletop Simulators have got these built-in macros which just do all that for you.
It's very handy. Although we did notice when we played Teotihuacan the other day, there's a couple of options with it, just basically because of the way the game's written as well, the actual physical game, is that there's a kind of babies first Teotihuacan, and then there's the actual version once you're used to it. And there's those options in Tabletopia, which is great, but the problem with it is, at the start of the game, you get dealt 4 tokens and you pick 2 of them to start. You select your starting resources, but this macro basically has already done that selection for you, which is slightly annoying because, you might want to pick different ones. I mean, for a first time play, it's fine, because you don't really know any better, but I think after that, you'd want to pick those things up yourself. But
that was just the starting game set up in the rulebook anyway, isn't it? So, yeah.
So the games you guys have played so far are games that at least one of you already knows how to play.
Yes.
How do you think it would...
No.
Oh.
No. I mean, when me and Andy... So, actually,
no.
All the games that me and Andy have played have been ones one of us knows how to play. Me and Adam played Cartographer's Guild from the same people who made Role Player, and neither of us knew how to play that. Now, that is a relatively simple game.
Yeah.
But we played that on Tabletopia, and Tabletopia has the rulebook built in, so you can click a button and the PDF just jumps out. You can just read the rulebook at any time you want.
I really want to play that game.
I actually really liked it. It is it's a roll and write, but without the dice. But it's actually really good. No, it's card draws rather than dice.
It's a flip and write, isn't it? They call it.
Yeah, it's a flip and write. Now, what the cool thing is, whoever's made this on Tabletopia, because on the proper game, you're supposed to draw in. So what you're doing is you're putting scenery down on the map, spitting trees, mountains, houses, and something else that I can't remember off the top of my head. So you're supposed to draw the little symbols into the little squares on like a dry erase sheet. But you can't do that in Tabletopia, so what they've done with that is they've got tokens. You get coloured tokens for the 4 major resources, and you place them down. And the problem is now, I've played the Tabletopia version, I want a version of the real board game that's got tokens now, because it looks so nice with the tokens on the boards.
That's interesting that the digital design's then potentially informing updates to the physical game.
Well, informing my desire of what I want in the game.
Yeah. We often feed back to publishers and things, so you never know.
It's true. Yeah.
I played just as soon as lockdown, just before lockdown happened, I took Dice Hospital into work because on a Friday, I typically take a longer lunch break. So I introduced a Dice Hospital to a couple of colleagues, really enjoyed it. And then lockdown happened, but Tom really enjoyed it so much. He was like, let's play it again. That's on Tabletopia. So that's the only game I've played on it. But it's really good. I really like it. I have played other games on Tabletop Simulator, and unless it was a belting game, personally, I wouldn't go back to Simulator.
Okay.
I really just didn't get along with it. It might be because it was 2-3 years ago now, but I had such a pain in the ass experience with it. I wouldn't go running back.
I didn't feel there was a massive difference between the two at this point in time.
No, I'd agree with that.
I felt Tabletopia just looked a bit slicker, but I think Tabletop Simulator has been improved that it's not actually that different at this point.
No.
So one of the things about Tabletop Simulator is you can change the size of the tokens.
That was amazing.
But I didn't realise this was going on. So we're playing Great Western Trail. We were playing a 3-player game, but the 4th player's already set out because it doesn't change the setup for the number of players that game. I kind of panned out, and the trains are usually 2 centimetres across. Well, I panned out the screen, and the train was now 0.5 metre across, perched on the end of the table.
Adam had been messing around in the background.
Had that not messed up the physics to go, right, there's now a wooden train perched on the edge of the table to kind of start tipping it up?
I can't remember. There was something that we were doing on Tabletop Simulator where someone was grabbing a token and someone kept knocking over people's pieces as they were dragging the token across the board.
Nice. I quite like
that. Oh, yeah, that's the pickup height as well. It was slightly too low.
Yeah.
So if you've got, it picks it up and it sort of hovers above the table. You drag it across, which is fine if you're just cards or anything on the table. If you've got tokens that are sticking up, so you've got a sort of 3-dimensional aspect to the game, you drag a token or a coin across the money, and it just leaves a trail of destruction across the table. The cards and stuff go everywhere.
Cat.
That's it. It needs a cat button. I was just thinking.
It really is, yeah. But another thing we noticed about the Great Western Trail, the reason Adam was doing this was that the train tokens in the digital version on Tabletop Simulator are just slightly too big for the spaces they go into, so you have to manually shrink them a little bit to make them fit. Otherwise, you end up sort of getting sort of train piggybacks.
They're just cuddling.
Yes, really closely. Why was that train turned up? Wait, no, move on.
Now, we've talked about Teotihuacan before, and we talked about Great Western Trail before. I've got to admit, I absolutely love both of these games. I think it's cementing in me. I mean, we played Teotihuacan in about an hour and a half, didn't we? And that was with the slight reduction in time with faffing with stuff in Tabletop Simulator.
That's actually really good time to play that in, I think, on a virtual engine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we played Great Western Trail 3-player in about a similar kind of time as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty quite quick for Great Western Trail, isn't it?
I mean, to be fair though, it is me, you, and Adam,
And we are fast.
and we are quite fast players. None of us like overthink our turns or
Correctly think.
overthink, John.
It's relative.
There's no analysis paralysis on that table. Let's say
That's true. That is true.
So, but you played roleplay for the first time.
I did,
and I don't think we discussed it on the podcast, but we might have discussed it.
I don't think we have. So let's do it.
I think we have because Steve and I have both played it. We've at least referred to it before.
I don't remember going through it. Let's do it anyway. For my old and adult mind.
So, Roleplayer is a dice drafting game in a similar vein to kind of like Sagrada.
And Dice Hospital.
And Dice Hospital in a way, yeah. And what you're doing is you are drafting dice from a collection in the middle of the board to put onto your board. And what you're trying to do is you are trying to build a D&D character.
Yes.
And you're doing that because you need the 18 dice for your 6 characteristics and 3d6 in each characteristic to make your character stats. So you start off with the base board, which is your race, which will have your your bonuses on there to your con, your dex, your strength, or whatever. And then you pick a random class, which is your goal, what the dice figures you're trying to get, a random alignment, and a random background. So the main way in which you're going to score points is your class will say, I don't know, let's say you pick the Bard. So the Bard will say the Bard needs 18 in charisma.
What's everyone looking at me?
So if you're playing with a human character, you don't get any bonuses or penalties to your stats, so you need to get 3 6s in your charisma to get the most amount of points. And then all your stats will have things like, most of them will be worth like 1 or 2 points each, and some of them might have a range, so you need like an ability score of like 15 to 17. Some of them say you just need like 14 or more. All the dice are different colours. So on the background card, you have to get certain colours of dice in certain locations to score points. And the more the more dice you get in the right place, the more points you get. You've got a little alignment grid, which is your bog standard 9x9 grid, 3x3 grid. Sorry, lawful, evil, good, chaotic, all that kind of stuff. And you move this little cube around, and you move that using like your one of your wisdom bonuses or some of the abilities you can get later in the game. Because that's the other thing as well. You've got a market every turn. So a market will get you skills, traits, and equipment, which can also get you points. So it's in its essence, it's a really simple game because all you're trying to do is grab a dice from the middle and put it into the right spot to give you your stats of your D&D character you want. But of course, it never works out like that.
No, it isn't. No, I think you will, John, to be honest. I remember scoring this, and so you go through, there's like 6 scoring points in order, so you go through each little bit in this list. So I remember going through Steve's. Have I got this? No. Have I got this? No. Have I got this? No.
Do I remember it correctly that say when you put a dice into strength, because you put a dice into strength, that then triggers an ability that you can like swap positions of 2 adjacent dice? Or
all 6 characteristics have their own special ability. So some of them allow you to re-roll the dice, some allow you to swap a dice, some allow you to flip the dice to its opposite side.
Yeah.
Some of them allow you to get more cash. Some of them allow you to move your alignment around. Yeah, and then as soon as you finish a row, you get extra gold to spend at the market.
Yeah. No, listeners, you won't appreciate the big smile that's been on Steve's face as he's been explaining this game. It's so clear. If you haven't picked up from what he said about really liking it, he just looks so excited to be talking about this game. And hearing him talk about it and having played it only once years ago, I'm now going, why the don't I own this? Why? It is just a bloody brilliant, good fun game.
I said that when I played it. It's like, I'm going to get this game. It's bloody brilliant.
What annoys me is I didn't hear about this game until after the last Kickstarter had finished. So the last Kickstarter had all the expansions and all that on it. And I was like, oh, I would have bought all them if I'd known about this.
Yeah. It's a really, and it's even like the component quality. So the player boards are all decut, so your dice sit in nice little spaces. The dice are nice, big, chunky 20mm dice.
Yeah,
It's just the quality of it, and it's not a terribly expensive game either. You can pick it up for around 40 quid, can't you?
Oh, really?
I think so. Yeah,
Good.
Yeah, and
Perfect.
it's got a couple of expansions because it's got like more races, more characters,
And all that.
all that.
Just like a D&D expansion. I do wonder why this game was never published with Wizards of the Coast. Why this isn't a Wizards of the Coast or even a WizKids game. You know, so it would actually be a D&D orc, half orc, or a D&D human paladin.
Yeah,
I can understand
because it is D&D in all but name, isn't it?
Absolutely everything in all but name. I do wonder why. But I don't think it certainly doesn't detract from it. But I think maybe in some ways it's a bit more of a hidden gem.
Yeah,
Because of it. But yeah, really good game.
So talking of D&D in a roundabout kind of way, we recently finished our Storm King's Thunder campaign in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
We did.
We did 2.5 years.
That's a long time to be playing one session, one season.
And we've played almost every other week, haven't we? We were taking breaks over Christmases. But yeah, pretty much every fortnight for 2.5 years.
So yeah, it's like 50 odd sessions.
Which, from what I've seen of other people, because I'm a member of a Storm King's Thunder Facebook group, that seems to be about right.
Wow.
Okay.
I think the amount of session time we did, because I think people like to think they're playing D&D for 5 hours every week, but I don't think they actually are. I think we were pretty bang on the average for the amount of time.
Well, we didn't start on Storm King's Thunder, did we? So when we started, we were on. It was with the Iptras in the Winking Narwhal, and
well remembered.
Thank you.
No, you didn't. But I kind of mixed things up a bit at that point. But the level-wise, you started right. In fact, level-wise, you didn't start right. I had to adjust quite a few things. But you approach the right stuff at the right levels, if it makes sense.
Cool.
Because apart from one section, it's intended to be levels 5 to 10. And so I actually brought some of it forward. So you started doing stuff at the main book at level 4 rather than level 5. Because I couldn't think of a way of actually stretching out what we were doing for another couple of levels, so I thought I'll bring it all forward.
Okay.
But anyway, for those who don't know, Storm King's Thunder is a campaign book for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Your full massive adventure. It's one of the hardback books. They release one every year, which gives you a full campaign, which should last from first until majority of them tend to go for like 10 to 15 level. So it gives you a full story, and it is a story. It's got, it's a full story arc, monsters, baddies, maps, all that kind of thing, all done in the 4 glorious full colour that Wizards of the Coast and D&D 5th edition do these days. So this one is based on the idea that giants are suddenly attacking, and your party of heroes have to try and work out what the hell's going on, and general heroes. Yeah. So I'm conscious that some of this may get into spoilers. So what I'm thinking of doing is, unless anyone's got anything else we want to kind of talk about, I would suggest we talk about it without spoilers, and then we'll give a spoiler warning, warning, and then we'll go to the end of the podcast just talking about that.
PHC After Dark.
Yeah.
Horrible thought.
Undercover.
So, what do you guys think of Storm King's Thunder? Now, Andy, I know you weren't in this campaign. However, I did try and pull some bits from the campaign into your campaign, because I tried to make sure both campaigns were happening at the same time.
And our campaign did its best to thwart you on every turn.
Yes. You did your best to thwart it as possible. So what you guys did is you guys did a campaign which was in Icewind Dale. You did the Legacy of the Crystal Shard campaign, which once you finished the story arc of that, there was a frost giant attack on Icewind Dale. And that was supposed to be the thing that kickstarted you guys into Storm King's Thunder, because originally I was actually planning, there's that much content in one section of Storm King's Thunder, I was actually planning on running both parties through it and just seeing what happened when, with regard to certain parts of it. But Andy's group were just not interested in that juicy plot hook,
What's that over there? Squirrel!
basically. So, Rory and John, what did you think?
Well, to be honest, it was my first D&D. I didn't play D&D until at all ever until I was introduced to you guys really and playing it. But I loved every minute of it. And even after my second child was born, and I was like, I've got to take a break, guys, because I'm going to be a dad again for the first time. I think I took one session off, or maybe two.
Yeah, we were planning for like 6 months off, and you suddenly went, it's fine, I can come back.
Yes.
Hooray.
May have caused an argument
good.
or several every fortnight for the last year and a half, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know, it's easier to think of some of the downsides off the top of my head. I got really annoyed that all my kills keep getting stolen from me by Benjamin.
A barbarian friend,
Yeah. And then towards the end where I kept dying, but
Get knocked out of combat,
I get knocked out of combat, but I really enjoyed it. I felt that my character that I created, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing with him to start with, how I turned him into an actual character, and as he leveled up and as we started playing more frequently and we had more banter and more interaction, he grew. And I think the story, I felt in many ways the story stopped becoming the Storm King's Thunder, and it really felt like it was the Champions of Chance.
Yeah.
We were just there, and Steve, you were leading this story, but it didn't feel like we were following a book. It didn't feel like this was written down or prescribed is the word I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It really did feel like we were just 4 characters off on an adventure, and everything was just unfolding naturally to what we were doing. Bloody belting.
Yeah, it didn't feel too much like it was on rails or anything like that. It felt like there was a reasonable amount of choice that you could go and do anything, which was often our downfall because we went and did all sorts of random stuff.
Yeah, I do think we maybe, in retrospect, we spent a long time flying around collecting a load of artifacts, which became immediately useless as soon as we did it because dispel magic.
Bit, yeah.
So, John, this is your second D&D 5th edition campaign because you finished
sort of
third. Well, I say full campaign that you got to the
full
end
campaign.
of?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. So you played in Andy's Forward of the Dragon Queen and
Rise of Tiamat. That's Tyranny of Dragons, the whole thing there.
Tyranny of Dragons campaign, yes. So how did you think the actual campaign... Now, I don't want to play favouritism for a DM here. So how did the actual campaign compare between the two?
The campaign itself definitely felt more polished. Rise of Tiamat really did feel like it was on rails, and certain things were just like, oh, okay, this is a fight that we have to lose. Okay, well, should we just skip to the end then, where we've lost? Never felt...
To be fair, you never had to lose any of them. You just did.
When 4 dragons appeared...
That was a DM oversight.
I don't know. There was some other bits and pieces that just felt more kind of. It felt like it was more deliberate that you had to go and do those things and this things, and I mean, the one thing I will say on the other side of that is that it took us about, I would say, 4/5 of the way through the campaign before we actually kind of understood the major protagonist. And it wasn't clear at all. It almost felt a little bit like an afterthought.
In Storm King's Thunder?
Just from the way that things revealed to us in Storm King's Thunder, this is.
My point of view from the DM will always be different for you guys as players. Now, you both guys said there was a lot of choice, and one of the things that Storm King's Thunder does really well is it gives the players a lot of choice. If people who have read the book will call it the infamous Chapter 3. Because Chapter 3 basically just goes... Right, here's some plot threads, and here is something that's happening in every single town of the Sword Coast. So most of them are some of them are a sentence, some of them are half a page, but it basically gives you events and things that are happening, so that no matter where you go, now something is going to go on. Now, about half of them are to do with the giant threat. which is really cool. So you can go to... Now, you missed out on a few of them because you either got the teleportations or you used the airship. But there was like, you go to a town and there's a feast going on, you're in the middle of the feast and hill giants attack halfway through the feast. That kind of thing. There's a whole little subplot about finding the Weevil, which is like an escaped prisoner.
Didn't we find
did that
the Weevil?
one.
Yeah, you did that one. You did find the Weevil, yeah. And one of the things that people like both praise and criticise the book for is because it's so open at that point. It doesn't actually go, right, here's what you need to do. Now, the irony is, you guys did the one quest tree that told you what you needed to do first. And then ignored the instructions.
Okay.
At one point, you're supposed to meet up with someone who gives you basically tells you what's going on and kicks off the kind of like next half of the adventure where things go a little bit more linear. However, the book basically says to the DMs, you choose when this happens. So if you think players are dawdling, you just introduce this character early on and then this character pushes them towards the end. But there are several of these little subplots and events that point you this way. And funnily enough, you guys were told one of these and you went, yeah, all right. And then did something else.
I think it was on our list. It felt like we had to do some other bits and pieces first, if you like.
Steve, what was that bit, or are we going to come back to that in the spoilers?
We'll come back into spoilers, yeah.
I'm going to have to take notes, hang on.
The other thing I would actually criticise this book from as a DM is the first 4 pages of this book explain basically what's happened. And you as players will likely never find this out.
Okay.
You don't know who the villain is in the book. You don't know who the villain is until right at the very end. You don't even know who the sub-villain is until 3/4 of the way through.
Well, there was a point towards the, I think it was where Haval got shot out of the sky. At that point, we were chasing 3 possible villains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it could have been any one of them.
And I think there's a criticism of the book. It doesn't identify a villain early on that the players can go, right, that's the bad guy, that's who we need to kill, or that's who we need to find, that's who we need to stop.
That's the thing we're working towards. It's more just, there's some giants and they're attacking things. Okay.
There was instance where we encountered the bad guy much earlier on, months back. And that encounter felt a bit random to me because that character had only been mentioned loosely. Yeah. We'd heard of others, complete other characters that could have come up to be bad guys, but this one just kind of came out of the blue, attacked us, and we ran away, and we just thought that was just something that happened. It didn't seem to have any rhyme or reason to it.
Yes, and it's bizarre actually because there is rhyme or reason to it, but you never find out what that is unless you just happen to be in the right place at the right time, kind of thing. And I think that
we never are.
You never were, no.
I have to say that seems to be something that's consistent with both of them, Tyranny of Dragons and Storm King's Thunder. Now, I'm reading some other books as well, and it seems to be a thing with the D&D books is that unless you're the DM, you don't get to know a lot of the stuff in the game. Which is sometimes fine because from a story. Well, this is the thing. I mean, from a player's point of view, obviously you're going to find out stuff throughout the game that you guys determine and you guys find out, and that's the way the story goes, and that's fine. But there are sometimes some salient plot points that you won't find out, and it's really, really hard for the DM to try and shoehorn them in without making it either seem really forced, really random, or if it's even possible at all. In the Tyranny of Dragons one, there was a lot of stuff going on in the background, but it was very difficult to get that across. As John says, it was very linear. They ended up going from one encounter to the next. And they were working towards the end, and the end was pretty obvious. But in order to try and weave all of that stuff that's going on in the background in, it was very, very difficult to try and make it relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, in Rise of Tiamat and that side of things, it did feel quite a lot like towards the end you could see that we'd been working towards gaining support to be able to have the support of lots of factions to be able to do this big fight. But you don't get that sense of we need to do that. It's more just we do this encounter, we've got some help from them. we do this encounter, and subsequently we're going to get some help from them. But there's not like the upfront impetus of we need to get this support to survive this thing.
It was a little more complicated because each member of the council had a different response depending on what the outcome of the encounter was. So it was never really guaranteed you were going to get support. So to try and bring that across was extremely difficult, and obviously depended on what you guys did. Not impossible, and possibly some of it could have been down to me as a DM, but it was very hard to try and get you to understand what was going on in the background, and I think possibly a little too hard, because it wasn't obvious, even to the DM sometimes, exactly what the relevance was.
Can I ask a question then, from a DM point of view, and not thinking this is so much like a game, but more like a story? Do you think that we as players have missed out on a greater story, a more interesting, a richer story because we were not exposed to these elements? Because, like I say, I really enjoyed it, but is it because I've really enjoyed it, but I don't know what else there was that I could have enjoyed?
I don't think it's important.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I agree that you have missed out on stuff, but I agree with what John just said. It's not important because at the end of the day, it's your story. And that's the way to. And then one of the things they always, one of the things you got to remember about making any kind of role playing game adventure is it's not a story that's pre-written. It is certain things have happened, and the thing is, like the way that the traditional kind of D&D adventures is, it does suggest you're going to go from A to B to C, or you might go from A to B, C, D, or D, and then you end up at E, kind of thing. So there is a beginning, middle, and end, as it were. But at the end of the day, having all these little things means that everyone gets a slightly different experience from it.
Makes it more personal.
Yeah, what you're getting is your version of that story then.
Okay.
And and things can happen where the DM can change stuff, which just tweak it, or you can end up doing something which completely screws over the plot as written.
Masters of Fate.
And then so things roll in and change as that happens.
Did we do any proper screwing the plot moments?
No, you didn't do any major ones. You missed one. You missed a major plot point because you did something the book didn't. You did something you could do, and the book assumed you wouldn't, and that was the big thing. And I've noticed this in a couple of D&D books. There's sometimes an assumption that the players are going to do something, and if they don't, then it's like, well, how do they find this out? And I had to make the call personally and say, well, they would never have found this out. There's no way of knowing this. And so an encounter which happened, basically what I do is try and reshuffle things. So I think which should have happened like chapter 3 ended up happening in chapter 8 kind of thing. Okay. So, try and bring it back in so that it happens, but it's not in the same order that the book said it was going to. I will go when we go into spoilers. If you want, we can go discuss what actually happened. And what
because
you did
this is a tantalising mystery. Speaking of riddles here, I'm just like, what was it?
The thing is with these as well, and I think this is the same with any RPG book. You need to put a little bit of work in as the DM. You cannot run these books just completely vanilla as written because you have no control over the players. Because they're going to do things which are going to change things slightly. And I think Storm King's Thunder wasn't the worst offender for this, but there's definitely a few points where it kind of goes like, oh, they will know this by now.
Nope.
Don't think they do.
we didn't know a lot for most of that adventure, it felt like. Through no fault of yours.
Tyranny of Dragons did that as well, and I got to the point of thinking, I'm reading the book and I don't even know it. What the hell? To go back and reread.
Not part of this campaign, but one of the first adventures of 5th edition D&D I played. I was playing. It was an old adventure which I converted, and I found somebody online had actually converted this adventure as well. So I've written all the stats, and they come to the end of this dungeon. It's a really cool dungeon crawl, and you come to like the sarcophagus where the magic item is stored. And there's a secret password to open the thing. And it's supposed to be, it says in the description, and the players simply need to mention a name. And it says in this ancient text, say my name and it will be opened. And all they have to do is say this dead body's tomb and the tomb will open. And I'm reading this at the point where the players have got to the tomb and gone, well, what's his name? Where was that written? flicking furiously through this book going, I don't remember anywhere that you'd even got this clue. I don't know his bloody name. How are the players supposed to know? And I had to change it on the fly because I read it before reading it out and went, and it's locked. So they had to use the thieves' tools to unlock it. It's like, okay, got away with that.
Yes. Did you have the opposite thing where characters would be introduced and they'd be interesting characters? There was one character in particular in Tyranny of Dragons I'm thinking of. I won't mention who it is because we're not spoiling things yet, but there was one character got introduced about halfway through the story, the overall story, so towards the Horde of the Dragon Queen. And I thought this was a really interesting character. And it turns out the party actually interacted with them quite well. And they had plans to do more with them. But then things happened, the story proceeded, and this character just disappeared. Completely off the radar, just off a cliff, no mention of them again. And that's it. You're thinking, hang on a minute, they'd be really useful. Now, I suppose as a DM, I could have woven them in later on, but by that time, their relevance would have disappeared.
I actually did the opposite with Storm King's Thunder. There was a major character which doesn't get introduced until really late in the campaign. And if you introduce them the way they're supposed to be introduced, your characters would have empathy for them, but not a massive amount of empathy. Mm-hmm. So I introduced them earlier. I actually swapped out a character. I also amalgamated a couple of characters as well, because there's one point where I was looking at this. There's too many NPCs here. I can't keep track of them. So I actually merged a couple of NPCs together.
Interesting.
Because it was a pain in the ass for me to keep track of. So I thought it's going to be even worse for you guys to keep track of.
Yeah.
So
I think that's really interesting. The character you said about having empathy for, I think it's fairly obvious who it is. And one of my favourite NPCs from the entire game, if we're talking about the same one.
Yeah.
And it was like, as soon as we found out about the situation, it wasn't necessarily just empathy. It was just like, this is just gotta fucking stop. We're not having it. There's everything stopping. I don't care. That house is on fire. Yeah. There's children inside. No, I'm doing this. It was just there was a real good motivational point. I hope I'm talking about the right thing.
Well, what we'll do is I'll just quickly wrap up then, and we'll go on to spoilers then. So I have one major. I mentioned a couple of minor complaints I have with this module with regards to the way it didn't really paint a villain well enough. Mm-hmm. There is a villain. That villain is not a central villain until they're basically hidden villains, so you don't know who they are until the end, and there's even not much of a big kind of like, oh, it's them kind of thing. The other thing this book does really bad, which I frankly wrote around it, is the game officially starts at level 5. Mm-hmm. So level 5 is when the first proper giant attack occurs. So you go to one of 3 towns, and you encounter a giant attack. And what it has is basically says, the book blatantly says, if you can, run another module, get them to level 5, and recommends running the starter set, Lost Mines of Phandalar. Mm-hmm. Because that gets into level 5 and puts them a stone's throw from Tribor, which is where one of the giant attacks is.
Spoilers.
No, this is like the beginning of the book. Okay. This is, so I wouldn't say I'm not counting this as a spoiler. But what it does say is, if you don't want to run this, here's an adventure, which will take your players from levels 1 to 5, and it's the Nightstone. It's a village in Nightstone where the Nightstone had been stolen. Yeah. And the book does 2 really annoying things. Number 1, it basically accelerates them from level 1 to 5 at a ridiculous rate. So the whole Nightstone encounter is supposed to take you from 1 to 5.
Crikey.
We did it just at level 3.
Jeez.
Yeah, that is quite quick.
Yeah. Then it does something which is really bloody annoying, is so this starter adventure has, and I'm going to give this away now because this is the starter adventure. It's called Nightstone because there's a giant obelisk with markings on that gets stolen by cloud giants. Mm-hmm. It is not mentioned in the book ever again.
What?
Or remembered by the champions of chance.
If you actually read any forum about this, you go into Reddit or Facebook groups, the most common question is, what happened to the Nightstone? I can't find it anywhere else in the book.
It's the same thing. Something interesting happens or someone turns up and it just gets disappeared, dogpiled into the corner and forgotten about. Yeah.
And what's really annoying is if they just put a sentence at the end of that chapter that went, you decide what happens to the Nightstone.
Yeah.
We suggest that you make a story up about this. That would have just gone fine, but it didn't. It just left it completely hanging. I still think it would have been better as well if that Nightstone did lead into one of these quest trees that were in the game. But it does. I think the intention was it was like, it's up to you as a DM to come up with something interesting for it to happen. But it doesn't actually say that that it does mention it in like a side box at one point later in the game. But it doesn't actually explain it in that chapter, and that annoyed me in two ways, because number one, if we'd have run that as it was, you would have gone from level 1 to 5 in 3 sessions, which would have felt really weird.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, you've got this big MacGuffin that you don't know what the MacGuffin is. Or
the book says, right, you use a different module to get yourself to level 5. Here's an example. Mines of Fandelver, fantastic adventure, great idea.
Yeah.
But then goes on to write its own adventure to get you to level 5. Why don't they just write that initial adventure as part of the main plot and get you to level 5 sensibly?
I don't know. It's a weird way of doing it. Basically, they said, because it's one of the I think it's like the third book that came out. I think all three of the first books,
right,
with the exception of Curse of Strahd, actually. So I think Tyranny of Dragons, what's it called? The Elemental Evil one.
Oh.
Prince of the Apocalypse, and Storm King's Thunder, and I think actually make Curse of Strahd, all work on the basis that you can jump to them from Mines of Fandelver, from the start.
Right. Yes, no, Curse of Strahd definitely assumes a level 5. I think it's maybe 4 or 5 input.
Yeah. So they're all built so you can go from the start set into another campaign, but then give you other stuff in case you don't want to do Fandelver. Okay. And it's just a problem that bit that it does give you is just the weakest part of the book.
So overall, I loved it. I loved every session. Really got into the skin of my character, that pesky bard Zanhorn who's always after the fame. And one thing that really makes any good game for me is when your characters don't just get on perfectly, but they're also not so discordant that you question why these people would even stay together. Like, we were clearly a band of adventurers and we were bound in good ways, but we still had our squabbles. We still had our banter in the party.
I've been thinking about that since we finished playing, and I feel now that Senza, Benjin, and Zanhorn all really got along with each other, and that I was the one that just got pissed off with everybody. Like, you three were fine.
I mean, Benjin was not really a barbarian of many words, so you didn't necessarily know how well he was getting on or not, and he would just tend to just run into battle when Zanhorn's carefully laid plan of stealthing, or at least talking to people. No, okay, we're going to fight now. Okay, right, fine, yeah.
See, we have the opposite, I say, issue in our group. Whereas, it's a 3 against 1, but it's not 1 getting pissed off at 3, it's 3 getting pissed off at 1.
So I felt like it was a good selection of characters, and if one of them's grumpy and finds it frustrating with the rest of the characters, that works quite well, especially if they do actually care about him.
Yeah, it was really good fun.
There are a few moments where your character Haval got really pissed off about something or other, but the other characters always went out of their way to kind of soothe him. Like, Zanhorn played him a beautiful bit of music, which Haval really didn't want to like, but because Zanhorn's such a fucking awesome musician, did basically get soothed by it. And there were lots of little moments like that where, like, one of us would get pissed off about something and another character would do something nice for them, and you didn't want to be backed down by it, but the party kind of gets to it. The camaraderie comes in. I think that's really cool.
So I was thinking about this a lot, basically, since we've finished playing. And the one memory I think I'm going to have about this game in many years' time is there was one scene where we were in a pub somewhere, and a dwarf challenged Benjin to an arm wrestling duel, and Benjin lost. And I have this really vivid memory, or imagining of the 4 of us on a cart leaving town, and as we just get to the crest of this hill, Benjin just going, "Why didn't I rage?"
Yeah, in most combats as well.
I could just really imagine that as like a comic strip thing of just like the hill, all in silhouette, just at the top of this hill. Why didn't I rage? End of episode.
I love the fact that it was like you were trying to be strategic, because you're the paladin, so the paladin has protect skills. You can protect your barbarian at your side, and every single time it was like, Benjin, stick by my side. Benjin, stick by my side. Ben playing true to his character in the most believable ways, like, I charge forward and go reckless, and everyone going, oh god.
The super annoying thing was it Benjin had an ability that allowed him to move 40 feet. So he would always charge 40 feet. He's like, Ben, I can't move that fast.
It's weird because I don't think you were role playing at that point. You basically just turned into your characters.
Think about the poor barbarian, though. His one thing is that he can run really quick and hit things really hard, and you're saying, don't do that. That's like telling my bards, don't go and talk to them first. Don't try and sneak around. Don't use all these skills. That's the one thing that you can do well.
In fairness, I did say to not do any of those things as well.
Right then, guys, I want to get to spoilers.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap up for those who are not interested in the inner workings of Storm King's Thunder and say thank you very much for listening. We have been Polyhedron Collider. We are on Twitter. We're at Polyhedron C as a group. I am at Walhothamadenga individually.
I am at Sonic H with a 0.
I'm at John_Cage.
And I'm at Rory J. Summers.
We are also on Facebook. And we have a Board Game Geek Guild number 2726 that you'll see a few articles there from time to time.
Historically, we've seen on twitch.tv/Polyhedron Collider all of these sessions played out for your enjoyment. That won't happen anymore until we find some new and interesting RPGs to get our teeth
Will they
into.
get uploaded to YouTube, though, John?
Well, that's just it. Now I've got
2 weeks off now, John.
I've got
Nothing
2
to
weeks
do.
off. I've got a whole day tomorrow where all I'm doing is just preparing the house to have a tiny human and a wife back.
And playing
So,
Super Hot.
I'll have loads of... playing Super Hot, yeah. So I might well start just putting some of those episodes together and uploading them at long last. And then you guys can see firsthand, before we get to the spoilers, what we went through as we went through it.
And we do have plans on doing some more RPGs. We're going to try and put them on the podcast feed. More work for me editing them, but I think that might be an interesting way to do it. And I'm relying on Andy's fat internet pipe to possibly stream them in the future.
I could do that.
So until then, though, until we come back with our next episode, if you're not sticking around for the spoilers, I'm Steve, and happy gaming.
Tatty bye.
Catch you later.
Bye-bye.